2.
Hello and welcome to the Digital Freethought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're recording this on Sunday morning, April 3rd, 2022. I'm Larry Rhodes, or Doubter5, and as usual, we have our co-host Wombat on the line with us. Hello, Wombat.
2. Sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me, sock it to me.
I remember that song. And our guests today are George Brown, the 2.5 from East Tennessee. We have John Richards from across the pond in England. And we have Dread Pirate Higgs from, I think it's Western Canada, isn't it?
Ahoy, yes.
Way over in the west side. Digital Freethought Radio Hour is a talk radio show about atheism, free thought, rational thought, humanism, and the sciences. And conversely, we'll also talk about religion, religious faiths, gods, holy books, and superstition. And if you think you're the only non-believer in your town, well, you're just not. In Knoxville, in the middle of the Bible Belt, we have a group of over 1,000 of us. And we'll tell you how we started our group and a little more about the group after the mid-show break. So stay tuned. Wombat, what's our topic today?
We're going to be talking about some bad news for Anglicans, as well as a little bit of RESPECT. Speaking of, how can atheists get some of that respect? And I guess before we get into the full meat and potatoes of the conversation, we're going to throw it up to our own Dread Pirate Higgs for our weekly invocation.
Arr! Quab be me captain, I shall not want. He maketh me to float in salt water. He steereth me through glassy seas. He filleth me bowl. He steereth me through straits of noodliness for goodness sake. Aye, though I sail through the heaving of tempestuous waters, I will fear not sinking. For thou art with me, thy mast and thy rudder comfort me. Thou preparest a feast before me in the presence of me mates. Thou quenchest my thirst with grog, my goblet runneth over. Truly pasta and grog shall abide with me all the days of me life, and I shall dwell in the galley of the Quab forever.
Amen. Guys, my fight against gray hairs has finally ended. I think I finally found a gray hair inside my ear, and at that point, it's like there's no hope turning back.
The battle is lost.
You're just accepting them as they come. There's nothing you can do. So
there is something you can do. You know what I do?
Talk to me.
I claim that I've dyed my head this color, and it's actually called extreme blonde.
Right.
Okay, so that's great. Hey, listen, I've heard that there's some bad news for the Anglican Church. Maybe you want to talk about that real quick, John, before we delve into our topic?
Yeah, well, there's quite a lot of bad news. In fact, if you watched last night's GAN,
I sure do. How could you miss that?
You would have seen a bit. There's more coming too. It's interesting what's coming up in the near future. But yes, 53% of the Brits over here have been shown to be non-believers, nuns, as you might call them. You know, not the ladies in Wimples, but the NONES type of nuns. And this is now a solid statistic because it's been tested, polled more than once now. So it's really bad news, especially as the young are the ones who are least engaged with religion. Right down to, I think it's about 3% of them profess to be Anglican at the moment. So it's really bad news for the Archbishop of Canterbury and his mates.
Cool. Larry, you're on mute, my friend.
And it's not that it's just 53% versus 47%. It's 53% non-believers versus a fractured belief systems on the other side. Yeah. You may say that, Islam claims a large portion of the fractured percent, but it might be 10% versus 53% non-believers.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And the thing is, because the young have rejected religion, they're going to get older and replace the upper echelons.
Of course.
You know?
Yeah.
Everyone knows wherever the UK go, America tends to follow. George Brown, what's up?
Well, I just wanted to add that here in the Bible Belt where I live, which is more Bible Beltish than where this radio program has originated, as I like to remind people, there are 167 official Baptist churches. The Episcopal Church happens to be the place where the political progressives are based in my town. So, ironically, I find myself thinking, oh, this is not good news, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you want
that John is telling us, you know.
If you want the latest news, this only came out today. A former Archbishop of Canterbury, not the current one, has come out saying that he would like to see the Russian Orthodox Christian Church drummed out of the brownies, because that there is a worldwide club of Christian churches. And at the moment, the Russian Orthodox Church is a member of this worldwide assembly. And he's starting a movement to get them kicked out because, obviously, they have supported Putin. They have not come out against the horrible stuff that's going on in Ukraine right now. In fact, they have more or less indicated support for it.
Sure. Yeah, really terrible. Dread.
Yeah, just going back to the first item there. In Canada, we just had our census last year, and coming out in October of this year will be statistics related to religiosity.
Right.
As that question is only answered every second census or every 10 years. So the last in 2001, when that question was last asked, or 20 years, I guess, 20 years, it was 33% were non-religious here in British Columbia, and I think 25% overall Canada. So it'll be interesting to see where the numbers lie come October.
You said you're about 30%. That's about where we were too, looking it up just really quickly. But you know what? I think the thing that's holding us back is that we still associate religion with moral character. And a lot of people will claim to be religious when in fact they don't know, they've never even read the Bible. They don't even know. But they'll say it by default, even on a census, just to appear or not to seem like a bad person. And I feel like I'll go for it, Larry.
Arthur C. Clarke said that one of the greatest tragedies of mankind is that morality has been hijacked by religion.
Right.
Yeah. And I feel like there's so many more better characters that you can base your morality off of than the Christian God.
Yes.
I think it unfortunately is almost the case that the Christian devil is actually a better example in a lot of cases. And
more moral.
Why pass up the opportunity of a flying spaghetti monster when it's like right there for you? Like I see, like, it's just so obvious. Guys, listen. So one of the things I've also noted on these censuses is that it's really hard to get respect, isn't it? Isn't it? Just with numbers and statistics. And so I'm finding that, you know, culturally, while it seems to be the case that a lot of people will appeal to religion to seem like a good person, no one appeals to atheism, at least on the grand scale, to demonstrate their morality. And if you were to ask me, one of the coolest ways to demonstrate good character is by showing that I'm not following a strict dogma that has a lot of toxic attitudes against different kinds of people and classism and attitudes towards slavery that are not anti in any sense. And for the most part, I feel like with my atheism, I have an opportunity to not believe in a script and let myself come to my own conclusions. And if you don't see me hurting people, and if you see me actually going out volunteering at our local animal shelter, conducting myself well, trying to stay educated, taking care of my family, then you have a person who's not following a script in order to do that. And I feel like what my atheism enables me to do is demonstrate that I can be a good person without God. And I think that's one of the ways that I like to show or give atheism respect, because ultimately it is just not believing in a God, but I'm showing moral character even without that belief. And I think that's the key for me. I wonder, how do you guys show respect, or how do you think atheism can get more respect and move away from the idea that you're a good person only if you're a believer? I'll throw it up to Dread first. Dread, what do you think?
Sure. Well, you know, I also, as a practicing pastafarian, people, I guess, assume in most respects that that is the same thing as being an atheist, which is fine. I don't really care, but it's pretty much like you say, is doing, being an honest person, doing good, being a part of the community, and always making sure you declare you're out, right? Like,
Right.
letting people know. And then when they say, well, because I've had people say, oh, well, why do you hate God? Well, like, what happened to you? And, so having those opportunities to clarify exactly what it means to be an atheist is, not having evidence of something is not the same as hating something,
Right.
So, yeah, it's about being clear about what it is and then just demonstrating yourself as a good person.
Right. And it doesn't have to be a huge ordeal to let someone know you're an atheist. Sometimes I've had people be like, "Hey, do you go to church?" And I'll just say, "Well, I'm more of a Marvel person." And I think it gets the point across pretty well too. But like I tend to do it as like jovial and straightforward as possible so that they understand. And then if they want to have a longer conversation, we can sit down and have a chat about it.
Yeah.
Larry, what do you think?
Yeah, I raised my hand just as Dred was making the point about being out, coming out, and that's the point I wanted to make is we need to come out of the closet. We need to be out of the atheist closet, not necessarily loud and proud, but if somebody brings up their religion and asks your opinion, tell them. You don't have to say I'm an atheist. You can say, like I do. I usually say I'm not a religious person. Just let it go at that. If they want to get into more detail, I'm more than happy to. But I think if all of us came out, it would, the sheer numbers of it would then imply that we're normal people, that we're your good neighbors and good co-workers, and it would just go from there.
Yeah. And for those of us that are a little more inclined to be out, it would help other people who are maybe a little more shy or reluctant to, just because they know they're in good company.
Yeah. I don't think we need to make an announcement to those that are close and dear to us. Just engage in conversations when they come up, and don't back down. You're an adult. You have the right to your own beliefs.
Correct.
Don't
Or lack
let
of
people take that away from you.
Right, exactly.
Correct. I think the biggest mistake we make with regard to power, the biggest misconception is that we give it up when we can easily just hold on to it. And a lot of people give up their power. So hold on to it, stand fast. And you don't have to do it in an aggressive manner when you let someone know you're an atheist. You can because you can be confident in your own place where you don't have to make it an argument. And if it's a problem for them, let it be a problem for them. But let them know where you are and then let them have their problem. That's not on you. John Richards, I'm going to throw this out on you. How do you think atheists can get some, I'm going to try to spell it again, RESPECT?
You got to think of the song.
I got it.
Just
Nailed
think of the
it.
song.
Oh, got it.
RESPECT.
There you go.
Such a great song, wasn't it? Yeah. So I wouldn't want to pretend that all non-believers are perfect specimens of humanity. But respect has to be, first of all, it has to be earned. And then it has to sort of withstand the hatred that's thrown at it by other factions that want to own it for themselves. So I think that the biggest thing we've got to do to try and get a higher profile of respectability is to stop these other people from claiming that, we are only atheists because we want to sin. That's not true. We are only atheists because we don't have any morals. That's not true. We're only atheists because we are purposeless. That's not true.
Or that we hate God.
Or we hate God. Exactly. All of that stuff is thrown at us illegally. It's simply not true. And that's what we've got to try and resist. So I'd like to point out that I think it's around 95% of the inmates of American jails are Christians.
That's a good stat.
Well, true. That's very true.
Larry, would you like to introduce?
Yeah. Welcome, Electro Live, to the group. Would you like to say a few words just as introduction? I think everybody knows us.
Everybody knows him too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
He's getting his audio set up. That's all.
yeah.
But we're happy to have him engaged in the conversation. We're talking about how can atheists get respect. Listen, George Brown, as a New Yorker, as a Brooklynite, respect is a big deal in the streets. Everybody needs to know where you're walking and where people are walking to. It's like a very big deal. But respect as far as religion goes, like, did you ever feel disrespected as a natural born organic atheist?
You mean in New York?
Yeah, in New York. And then compared to how your life is in Tennessee now that you're in the Bible Belt.
Oh, wow. In New York growing up, I never gave it a moment's thought, except
Wow. Yeah.
except one day I was walking down Flatbush Avenue and I passed a man who had a little table full of little tiny Bibles. And he had a sign that said, "Free Bible to any Jew who will promise to read it." I thought, what the hell? So I picked up a free Bible. And I mean, that was like my introduction to religion in a
Wow.
way.
How old were you?
And I must have been a teenager, maybe
Okay.
12, something
Wow. Wow. Wow.
at
Wow.
least that. And so I tried reading the Bible. I thought maybe this will make me feel better about myself, right?
Mm.
So I started trying. I could not read the thing. I kept falling asleep. This
Same
has
here.
happened every time I try to read the Bible. I can't focus on the thing. So,
I'll
but
throw this
about
out.
lack of respect, it
Yeah.
just it wasn't an issue. Whereas
Where you are now.
I'll tell a little story later, maybe about
Okay.
when I performed in a congregational church and had to put up with being badmouthed by the minister. So
Sure. When I was reading the Bible, or the way how I got my first Bible was my pastor from the church that we were visiting came to our school, unfortunately to indoctrinate a bunch of kids. My school just let sermons happen on campus. It's a thing. But I was in second grade and I saw him. I'm like, hey, that's my pastor. I'm going to ask him if I can get baptized just randomly. And he took it super seriously. And then they did this whole baptismal thing like that same week. And they gave me a red Bible that had like a white Jesus on it. I remember he had like a nice little perfectly manicured
Nice.
mustache and stuff like that. And there were pictures inside, and it was all just like white, blonde people, blue-eyed people, like on crosses and all that other stuff. It was just crazy. And I'm reading this thing, and in my head, I'm recognizing like it seems to me like this God character really, really wants people to respect him, or he'll hurt him. Because very first chapter, he drowns literally everybody, and like he's just killing people left and right. And I was actually really scared. I was so scared that I was afraid to even go to the very last chapter. I remember how terrified I was, and there was a point in my head where I was like, the Bible is very scary, and I'd rather have someone tell me what's in it than read it myself. And then I thought that was not good, so I tried reading it, and I got bored, and it was just like, this is a really hard book to read through.
Yeah.
But I did stomach through it. I've read the Bible twice, and both times were just the most displeasurable experience of my life. It was just the most random series of stories. And now that I look back at it, I can't believe that's what the holy books are. Anyway, Larry, what do you think?
Well, it's just it surprises me when people constantly say that God is love, when if you read his book, his most common interaction with people is killing them
Right.
or giving them plagues which kill them. It's
Right.
just one after another after another. Even the guy who tried to
tyrant.
save
And
the guy who tried to save the Ark of the Covenant from falling and hitting the ground, he killed him for touching it.
Right. And I want to throw out this story as a counterbalance. My mom always told me like the best way to get respect from people is to earn it, or is like to work towards earning it, not through hurting them. Because I used to get in fights all the time. We used to be the only black family, and I'd be the only black kid, and I get in fights all the time. And one day my mom said, Tyrone got in a fight with like 3 kids today. I'm going to go to his school and I'm going to bring cookies and I'm going to read stories to his class. And I'm going to give out the cookies, and all the kids are going to see me give cookies and read a funny story. And she came on our lunch break as a secretary and did that on 3 occasions. And afterwards, nobody got angry with me anymore.
Nice.
No one got in fights with me because they all knew my mom, and they knew my mom was a nice person. And I'm like, how did you do that? That was so easy. It's just like, Tyrone, you got to earn people's respect. Like, and I'm looking back at the Bible and I'm surprised I didn't really connect the two dots, but here's God being like, respect me, plagues, plagues, this, that, famine, all that stuff.
Or
Whereas my
newbies
mom's
forever.
like, a little bit of cookies, read some good stories, and you know, show that you can be worthwhile or valuable in your friendship with other people. John Richard, what's up?
I'd like to suggest that you didn't earn that respect, you bought it.
I didn't pay for anything. Hey, what's up, George Brown? What's up?
Muted. You're still muted.
Okay. He's still on mute.
Should we go out there and bake cookies and put them in boxes? You know, give out atheist cookies.
Hey, you mean that might work? Believe it or not, more cookies are atheists than you might imagine. Anyway, Electro Live. Is your audio good? Still on mute. Still on mute. We'll give him another try.
So while you're thinking about that, the latest initiative that Atheism UK is looking at is printing some stickers to go in the inside cover of a Bible, which says any resemblance to people living or dead in this book is entirely accidental.
Sure. Yeah. Though I'll say this too, in sciences, so this is always a hot topic, but in the idea that there are a lot of atheist scientists doesn't necessarily make atheism any better, because there's also religious scientists too.
Sure.
But really what's more important is that the scientific process is not dependent on any religious belief, because you have Muslim scientists that can progress science. You have Christian science that can some Christian scientists that can push forward science, but they're all doing it when they don't use the religion.
Right. They're not using religion when they do that.
Right. That's the distinguishing point. It's like when we make advances, maybe that person's religious, but he didn't use his religion, or she didn't use a religion to progress science. They were using the scientific method. And I want to say that should be indicative of what really is the best system to
They didn't do their science on Sunday.
Imagine how much further we would have gone, and if we saved all those Sundays and actually used them for something useful.
Yeah.
Anyway, how about we do an early break? We can go into listener comments and then tackle some other topics and try to get Electro Live in here for more comments.
Electrolyte.
Yeah.
Stay tuned right there for the second half of the Digital Freethought Radio Hour. And they're on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We'll be right back after this short break.
Cool. Electro Live, get your stuff. How's your audio, my friend? Scott. Oh, no, he's frozen now.
No,
he's having a bad time.
Huh.
So he's both frozen on my screen and no audio.
Frozen. Maybe something's eating up his bandwidth or something.
Yeah.
Is this somebody we know
it's
under
Doubtfire.
another
This is
name?
Scott.
Oh, it's Doubtfire.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Doubtfire. Hello, Doubtfire.
He's just a bit hairier than he used to be.
Oh, really?
Good. He's leaving and he's going to come right back.
He didn't put the paint on his scalp.
No, he has hair. Let's see. Guys, I'm in a disc golf league. I didn't want to bring it up on the show. I thought it'd be too much of a distraction, but I'm in the top 10 of my first league out of 40 people. Out of 40 people. I got calluses on my finger from practicing so much, and there's some real killers in that group, but I'm happy to be top 10. I'll take it.
What kind of group is this?
It's a disc golf group, so it's like you're playing golf but with frisbee. Yeah, and
Oh,
you're
I
throwing
see.
them like
Oh,
hundreds and
oh.
hundreds of feet into like very small baskets.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
It's golf, but mixed with disco dancing.
Yeah. I take dancing there too. Scott, whenever you can talk.
Hey,
There he
There
is.
you
There
go.
he is.
There you are, and you have
Nice.
hair.
I've got a little hair now. That's right.
Nice.
You really
Right.
do.
Larry, you want to get ready to jump back into it?
Sure, I'm ready.
Let me pull up some comments from last week. Of course, we had some comments from our good friend, Data's Trading Room. Is anyone in the chat right now?
No,
Dread?
no.
Okay.
I haven't.
Okay. Well, as far as
I'm alone.
Something we know about. Oh man, it's such a long comment. I'm not going to do it. We have a Tracy Harris fan. Okay.
Yeah, I love Tracy Harris. She's awesome.
Yeah,
And
me too.
I'm
Awesome.
just going to pull up the last episode. Give me a
Been here
moment.
in a while.
I saw
Are
her and
atheists-
Matt Dillahunty here in Vancouver at UBC
Oh, how is
when they
Matt?
came.
How is Matt? Is he better, more healthy?
Oh
Last
no,
time I
this was
saw
a
him-
couple years ago. I
I
was
see.
I was just saying I saw Tracy Harris and Matt Dillahunty at one of their shows, at one of their um, talks in Vancouver.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple years ago. He called Pastafarianism. He said he said some asinine. He called it asinine, and so I spent a few minutes trying to explain what the position was, and finally he's kind of acquiesced and said, "Ah, okay, well that sounds all right."
Cool. All right. So I am ready to begin. You guys ready to begin?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. Let's go in 6, 5, 4, 3, 2.
Welcome back to the second half of the Digital Freethought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's take a moment to talk about the Atheist Society of Knoxville. ASK was founded in 2002, which puts us in our 20th year. ASK now has over 1,000 members, and we have weekly in-person meetings in Knoxville's Old City at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria. Look for us inside at the high top tables. We're usually the loudest, happiest group there. We also have Tuesday evening Zoom ASK meetings. If you can't make it in person or live outside of town and you'd like to join us, email us at askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org or let'schatsE@gmail.com, and we'll send you the link to join us. You can find us online in Facebook, meetup.com, or go to our website at knoxvilleatheist.org, or just Google Knoxville Atheist. You'll find us that way. It's just that simple. By the way, if you don't live in Knoxville, you should still go to Meetup and do a search for an atheist group in your town. Don't find one? Start one.
Fun.
Wombat, where do you want to pick up?
I got a nice comment from Dallas Training Room on one of our former episodes. This came from What is Mysticism, which was recorded a few weeks back. He asked, Ty, I still have a problem with how you're defining atheism. What you said basically is, I define atheism as the lack of belief in a God, and that is what atheism is for me. But a theist could say, I define God as the necessary being, and that is what God is for me. Can you see the problem? And I'm like, here's my response. I don't really see a problem with that. I see it as two people defining what a word means to them, and that's totally fine. If someone said, I believe God is this, my immediate response wouldn't be, your definition is wrong because mine's different. Mine would be, well, why do you believe that? What method did you come to believe that's true or not? If you want to have that kind of conversation, we can totally have that. But I'm fine with the words that you choose to use based on your own terms when I ask you, how do you use them? That's basically all I mean when I ask for a definition. Like, how are you using that word and what does it mean to you? Because it's only through that understanding that we can talk at the same level. And instead of forcing my dictionary on you and you forcing it on me. Any other thoughts on that? You guys feel good on that?
If there were specific and ironclad rules for words, we wouldn't have usage councils.
We want to have 4 versions of like major popular
Right,
dictionaries.
and there wouldn't be different dictionaries that have different definitions.
Right.
And they
But I
were
am
reprinting every year with revised.
Right.
exactly. And I am happy with the idea of someone at least accepting the idea that atheism is a lack of belief in gods. But if they thought it was otherwise, I can at least explain where I'm coming from when I use that term.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I would ask
They're
them,
just-
hey, use my words the way how I'm using them, because that's how I'm trying to communicate with you. And
Right.
communication is always going to be a compromise in meeting based on the words that we use.
Certainly.
You know, I never understood why people have to force a definition on you. It's like it should be that they want to know what you actually believe. Like
Right.
it doesn't do any good to kind of like say, no, what you really believe is this.
Right.
And then you're like, oh, okay, thank you for that correction. I
Yeah,
guess I am wrong. Thank you
Because they
for
wouldn't like it the
straightening
other
me
way
out.
around.
Yeah,
Right?
because the other way wouldn't make a lot of sense for you to.
Yeah.
The way how I feel is it's to set their world narrative. And when you give them a word that doesn't suit their world narrative, then it's like, well, then I have to consider the fact that atheists may have a reasonable position. Like you've been told that you guys are unreasonable from the get-go. I have to use this bad definition where I start questioning myself. but it's still a conversation worth having. And I think if they aren't willing to meet you on the terms of these are what I mean with the words that I'm using, what kind of communication could
Oh,
we
you
possibly have
frozen.
otherwise? Oh, I'm frozen.
So,
My bad.
It's like a chess game, you know. They're trying to force to a way to win. You know, they're trying to
Right.
straw man you because they want to
Exactly.
win an argument.
Electro Live, I did want to jump back with you. We're talking about how atheists can get respect. What
Hmm.
things do you think atheists can do to get some RESPECTCM?
All right, Aretha. Yeah, I don't know. I think kindness goes a long way. You know, just be fair. Well, I don't know. Kindness sounds kind of weird, but just be. I guess for me, I can only speak to my experience. I noticed that if I'm just fair
Mm,
and not argumentative, and I'm just accepting what they tell, like you just said, you know, accept people on their own terms and have a reasonable discussion. Don't call them out of their name or don't bring out irrelevant points to try to win or score some kind of emotional, you know, point in an
right.
argument. Or
Being
I
petty.
think that goes a long way in winning respect.
Yeah, I agree. Setting an example is truly what it is. And
Hmm.
when you were leaving the truth, when I say truth, I mean Jehovah's Witnesses.
Hmm.
Did you employ that, or did you find that it was difficult to get respect once you were out of the kingdom?
When I got out of the kingdom, yeah, I mean, obviously, the other people that I left, the witnesses didn't
Right.
really respect that. They didn't
Mm,
respect me. Even my ex-wife at the time, she didn't understand, you know, and I lost a lot of respect in her eyes because she thought, oh, you're not being a real Christian man, you know, you're
right.
kind of being weak right now and easily fooled. So I think I kind of lost a little respect from them, but I think I gained a lot of respect from my family and people who really cared about me on the other hand,
Wow.
because I actually stood up for what I believed in at the time and still do,
Good
that
for you.
this isn't the truth and I need to find it elsewhere.
Good for you. Good for you. I know when my mom became a Jehovah's Witness, I found that as a great opportunity to let her know I was an atheist without any baggage because we were both essentially leaving traditional Christianity at the same
yes.
time. And I was just like, perfect opportunity. But still,
Mhm.
I could tell you there was a moment where I was really scared because I knew about Jehovah's Witnesses as a Christian. And I was like, Mom, don't do that. I'm going to lose so much respect. But then I also looked at the religion as a whole because of that and was like, you know what am I doing here? Let me just get out too. So yeah. Larry, what's up?
Well, find it funny that he was saying that once he got out of his religion, the people who really cared for him didn't have that much of a problem with it. But so that kind of not begs the question, but it makes you want to ask what the converse was, that the people in his religion didn't really care for him, and
Right.
especially
Mhm.
once he left it, it was obvious.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. And I have no problem getting disrespect from people who don't care about me. It's the
Hmm.
people I care
Mhm.
Right,
about that I only
right.
care about, right? George Brown, you had a comment?
May I tell a little story?
Sure.
Um, a number of years ago, I was asked to perform in a congregational church. I have been an oboe player, and I loved playing Bach, and it was an opportunity to play Bach with an organ and a singer, an aria from a cantata, which glorifies, of course, God. And so I was performing. We did a very nice performance. And then the minister got into his sermon in which he badmouthed atheists. So there I was performing in his church, glorifying his God, and he was putting me down. And by the way, I didn't get paid for this, you know. So
Mm.
I naturally felt rather insulted. And so I'm looking at this, you know, we are the butt of constant propaganda, I
Right.
Yep,
think.
yep.
And and so I'm wondering, so that was a lead in for what I'm going to say. Um, do we need to start a propaganda campaign of our own to counter the hate speech that we're victimized with?
Yeah.
Only in the
uh,
sense of we need to be more open with who we are and
right.
what we
Hmm.
look like and what
Propaganda is a loaded word, which sends the message that you're not sending the truth.
Correct.
And all we really have to do is just be ourselves and live the life that we.
Yeah. Slow and steady wins the race.
Right.
Eh?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for the correction. Thank you. Yeah.
John Richards.
Yeah. What we mustn't do is behave like them.
Right.
Very true.
Right.
If they're bad mouthing us, we mustn't bad mouth them back, and it's a
Right.
temptation. You know, I've
Right.
very often been in an argument with some theist, and they've started it. You know, they've been very rude about me, and I've considered, well, okay, you've opened the gates now. You've permitted rudeness, so I'll come back at you with some. And really, that's not helpful.
No.
So in the exact same sense, how if your goal is to get respect from people, don't target them with more, what's the right word? Mean
Vitriol.
words, mean candor, vitriol. But
Mhm.
and here's another example of it. If you don't want a guy who's hosting a show to make jokes about your wife's hairstyle, don't go up on the stage and slap them, because now everyone's going to be making jokes about your wife's hairstyle. Like, you got to be able to focus and think about things in the long term. It's very, very, it's very reactionary to want to do that. But it looks better on you when you have a BBC channel and there's a pastor who's just speaking poison about atheists, and you're just like, who is this guy? Anyway, what else am I doing with my life? Right.
Well, I can do that.
Hey.
I can do that if I'm listening in the car, of course. And
Sure.
nobody can hear me.
Right.
But I can put this in one sentence.
Oh.
We can't respect people who are disrespectful.
Ooh, very, very cool. Nice.
Something I
Including
thought
gods.
about too. Something I noticed with a lot of religious people, especially Abrahamic sort of religious people like Muslims, Christians, people like that, is they're constantly seem to be trying to prove that they're intellectual, especially the apologist type. Like they
Mhm.
want to
Right.
want to appeal to a lot of deep philosophy and a lot of logical arguments, and they even have websites like Reasonable Faith, and really they're promoting this idea that, hey, we're not stupid at like you think we are. We're reasonable too. We're smart
Educated.
too.
Mhm.
We're very educated, and it
Mhm.
seems like it all. And then the way that they have to sort of like Ty was saying, they straw man you sometimes, and then other times they try to say you're arrogant, or you're speaking down to me by comparing it to fairies and comparing it to other imaginary sort of things, which those sort of analogies are just to say we both accept that this particular thing, like a fairy or a leprechaun, is something imaginary. That's what we're doing when we make those sort of comparisons. That's how we look at your God, like it's imaginary. How do we tell the difference between your God and, say, a leprechaun? Like, are they the same thing or what? And so that comes off as a little insecure, and it seems like they're kind of needy, and they'll even come out and say it. I need God. We need to be saved. We need, so it seems like if we were to do that, we would lose all kinds of respect, I think.
I think so. Dread.
Well, it's interesting. I really like where you were going with that. What I find too is that people tend not to see their own ideas about the universe, like as created by God or whatever. They don't see these things as ridiculous. They see these as perfectly reasonable explanations. And then, but compared to another person's religion that has some other magical aspects to it, they consider it absurd and ridiculous. And, well, how could you believe something like that? And I get that a lot as a Pastafarian. How could you possibly believe that there's a flying spaghetti monster? That's absolutely crazy. Well, virgin birth, resurrection, those things are perfectly normal. Like, an ark that carries all the animals in the world. Like, really?
Talking snakes. Yeah.
Talking snakes, all that makes sense
Like
to
if
you? And it
dietary-
does, right? People just don't see their own story as a fiction. They see it as reality. And
And they forget that miracles, by definition, are supposed to be kind of absurd and kind of non-common. You know,
right,
that's the whole idea. Like,
right.
if
Because
it
they're supposed to
wasn't, then
inspire
it couldn't
faith.
be
Yeah.
right. It couldn't be a sign of God if it was just
Right.
your normal everyday thing, right?
Right. You put bread in a toaster and you got toast. That's not
That's
a
right.
miracle anymore. Even if it
Right.
happened basically the
It used to be before toasters. Yeah.
Right.
I did want to add on to what Electrolyte was saying, because there is a desire to look like an intellectual, while in the other hand dismissing comments from intellectuals only when they disagree with the dogma of the proposed or the supposed intellectuals.
Yeah.
So it's very much cherry picking, but also this performance piece where they demonstrate, oh, I am so smart, we have a smart organization, but anyone who disagrees with us is wrong. And that's a terrible methodology to get to true things.
Yeah.
I'm also going to say this too. Education is a lot like a gym, right? You work hard at a gym to develop fitness. You work hard in education to get smart. And maybe it's not as obvious when you look at it, but the marker for me that I see, the one that I try to look for to see someone who's effectively educated, is humility. Because the more that I learned, the more I realized I didn't know.
Right.
And the more I was humbled by the fact that there needs to be experts that study from these different areas that I need to rely on, because they've spent some time getting their expertise from them. And I can contribute with the area of expertise that I am in, which doesn't encompass an entire field of science, but does allow me to have some interesting points that I can offer in my particular perspective. And if we can work together with our own, various levels of ignorance, we can get to something more progressive. And I feel like people who have that sort of attitude are the ones that I respect. And I feel like the same thing can be from religious groups if they were able to demonstrate some humility. But unfortunately, they have this giant, super powerful guy who's their best friend, who knows how everything works and does everything right for them, and they know the answer for everything.
And listens to them.
He sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake.
It's the least humble thing I've ever heard. So it's very hard for me to get on that bandwagon. John.
The other side of that coin is that if you say anything which challenges their belief system, they then say you're not humble because you're thinking yourself to be more important than God.
You hear that all the time.
It's so bizarre. Yeah, it's so bizarre. Anyway, Dred.
So I think an important point is that being aware of the fact that reason is not natural to humans. It's a skill, just like critical thinking is. It takes practice, and this goes back to your point: is that these things take practice. It's a skill. You have to learn it. You have to practice it. Because it doesn't come naturally, and I think there's a part of gaining some respect is demonstrating critical thinking skills.
I love it.
Imparting that. Yeah.
Just on top of that, before we go to George, it's a skill, but it's also not like riding a bike. You can get bad at reasoning if you don't do it for a while. You need to keep doing it, and in fact,
you have to check your biases. You have to check your own biases, and heuristics and all that good stuff.
Anyway, George.
So, okay, I'll forego the word propaganda, although I really think that we are living in an age of propaganda, and it's very dangerous.
Sure.
Misinformation.
Yeah, misinformation, and fake people on Facebook and all this stuff. Would it be advantageous for us to have some sort of a coordinated campaign of, PR for ourselves?
Yeah, my coordinated campaign is everybody come out as an atheist if you're an atheist, and then just continue living your life as normal, and just let people know this is what an atheist looks like. This is what we're firemen, we're doctors, we're nurses, we're childcare laborers. Like, we exist, we're here, and we're not gonna step aside when someone says, well, these are all Christians, like this is a Christian nation. It's like, no, we're here too. And I guarantee you, similar to how it was in the UK, the more people who speak out, the more are encouraged to speak out as well. When I was at my last job, I was one of the first people to just, openly say I was an atheist, because I was gung-ho atheism back then. And I thought I was the only one. But it turned out that once I came out, had people come to me separately and say, "Hey, I'm also not religious too. I'm also atheist." Until I realized that like it was about 70% of the people I was working with were also atheists, and I just felt so much more nicer knowing that I wasn't alone. But I didn't know that until I spoke up because I assumed
Yeah.
everyone was Christian.
Yeah,
Larry.
the same thing
Well,
happened to me at work too.
in
Interesting.
in a country where it's quote predominantly Christian, if you
Mhm.
don't come out and you don't file your claim as a Christian publicly, then you will be assumed to be Christian,
Correct.
even by other atheists.
Hmm.
Your
And that,
silence hurts
right,
Yes.
progress.
Yeah.
Speak
right,
up.
exactly.
And
Maybe
that's my
we,
PR campaign. Don't fall into
Yeah.
silence.
maybe we should ban closets.
More
Okay.
windows, less closets.
Well,
I
it's
don't know.
interesting.
That's right.
I have a friend. She's an atheist, and this person still has to go to church, and it's
Sure.
like she feels triggered, every time listen to those sermons. But what her fear is the family, real
Right.
deeply religious, close knit family,
Hmm.
and I think she's been an atheist for like 5 years and still hasn't come out yet, still, and does all these videos and does all these has her own show, atheist show, part of all these atheist communities, and hasn't been discovered yet, to her surprise. And I guess her thing is, hey, if they find me online doing this, then that might be my out. But
I'm gonna,
i'm
I'll
not
throw
i'm
this out.
scared to
Yeah.
come out.
Yeah.
If she has the opportunity to go to like a Unitarian church, she can still go
Mm-hmm.
to church. I don't have a problem with church. I think it's like I said before, it's basically
Mm-hmm.
daycare for adults. But what I have a problem is with religious indoctrination. And so like Unitarians actually roll a pretty good, Sunday bash. Sunday
Mm-hmm.
assembly also very good, and those very church-like in its proceedings. So you can find good churches even if you're an atheist. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
want to have the word associated with religion all the time. I think like Christians are really good at taking words like chariot, Lord. It's like those words existed before you guys came around. Trust me.
Mm-hmm.
I'd
Mm-hmm.
rather have nice things belong to just the nice thing bucket rather than be taken by the Christian bucket. And I think
Let
church
me
is
ask you
good.
this.
Religious indoctrination bad. What's up?
Let me ask a question. There's another guy. His name is T Jump, another friend of mine. He's
Yeah.
trying to start an atheist church. What do you guys think about that
They already
concept?
have
Well,
them.
yeah,
I
we
mean,
have
go
them.
for it. Yeah, they
Yeah.
already exist. I'm totally cool with
Sunday
that.
Assembly.
Yeah.
If you look up Sunday Assembly, you'll see it started in England and pretty much went around the world.
Yep.
There's still a lot of them extant.
I went
No,
along.
I want to jump in on this because I wanted to say something for a couple of minutes. To me, the whole church thing feels artificial, and I mean, personally, I'm saying for
Mm-hmm.
me, it's irrelevant and a waste of energy. But
Well, your
that's my
definition
own.
is wrong. No, see, that's why we don't say that.
I just wanted to mention too. I wanted to clear something up that I may have given a misconception during our first half, which is that I never felt any hint of persecution in any way in New York as being an atheist. But I do want to say that New York, in fact, is a majority religious city, mostly Roman Catholic. But I think that because of the great diversity of people, there's a lot of tolerance and a lot of curiosity about everybody else. So that's what I'm saying. In an environment like that, it was just never a concern to me.
Sure. I want to
But there
throw
is a
out
lot of religion. I mean, New York, Brooklyn, in fact, was once known as the city of churches.
we have a
Mm.
fear of change as people. And I think what happens is diversity tends to promote or propagate change. And so there are groups that are afraid of diversity because they know change comes with that. It's particularly if they have a very styad point of view.
Mm-hmm.
And it is part and parcel with a metropolitan lifestyle where you have a
Mm-hmm.
lot of different people coming in with a lot of different ideas, that those people will tend to lose their dogmatic points of view and be more open to compromise, tolerance, change, just different groups of people. And that will be more so than people who live in the rural areas of towns and stuff
Yeah.
like that. And so
It's
what I'm hearing, yeah,
it's
go for
just out. I mean, it's absolutely necessary to communicate. Is
Mm.
being able to acknowledge and basically put up with other people's ideas about the world. because if you
Right.
if you can't acknowledge the differences, there's no way to communicate.
And what we have now is the easiest way to communicate more than we've ever had in any other time or any other generation. And I think that's the key. We don't have to worry about travel anymore. We can now communicate with anyone around the world from a screen or from an earpiece or from our phones that we carry around with us all the time. And I
But
think this is almost done. I think this is the path that we're going to find ourselves on. And the path is religion dying, because essentially we have the ability to exchange ideas faster than religion can keep up with. And so religion
however,
will
there's a flip side to that.
almost done, almost done. Raise your hand. There's an idea that the more religion manufacturers to try to compensate or stick with these old dying ideas, the more it can't keep up with the fast-paced nature of information exchange. And so I'm happy that we have things like internet. I'm happy that we have things like Twitter, TikTok, etc., because they're keeping people connected in ways that I think religion is going to have a hard time trying to continue to separate us and to make us into separate tribes. George Brown, what's up?
Pardon me, I come from a subculture of interrupters.
Yeah.
So what I want to say is the flip side to what you just said, which is that on the internet, people will have a tendency to congregate with other people who have exactly the same beliefs that they do. And this will accelerate prejudice. So it's a double-edged sword, as I see it. I mean, from where I'm sitting, which is in a very small city out in the boonies, where fixed thinking and fear of the other is a real big problem.
Echo chambers.
Yes, and I want to ask you, Dread Pirate, where you live in Grand Forks, is it the same in Canada?
Well, in Grand Forks, we have a large Doukhobor population. Doukhobors being a sect of Russian Christians, and so they tend to be, it's a very religious community here, so, and very Christian. So, yeah, it can be tough. It can be tough.
John Richards sounded like he had something to say.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to pick up on what Electro Live said, Scott said, about Tom Jump wanting to start an atheist church, because I was sort of on the fringes of the origin of the Sunday Assembly organization, because I attended a meeting, a sort of recruitment meeting with a bit of training thrown in which Sanderson Jones and Pippa Evans, the founders of the Sunday Assembly, performed on stage and gave us an example of what we could do to replace church with this secular, non-sectarian service. And it was very good. And I didn't get involved in it because the weakness that they had identified in their own construct was they went out initially and called themselves the Atheist Church. And of course, they hit up against the buffers of this non-appropriate, stereotypical definition of atheism. And that's how it became known as the Sunday Assembly, to get away from that label, that hateful label, which, it's been, the tar has been thrown for such a long time at non-believers. Even before Christianity, there was Gentiles, there was infidels, and all sorts of other victims of the religious.
Yes.
So if Tom Jump wants to join, to start a branch of Sunday Assembly, I suggest he gets in touch with Sanderson Jones, because Pippa Evans has moved on. She's now more mainstream comedian singer.
One thing that T Jump, and I heard him speak about this kind of extensively on one of his debates or whatever, is that the thing about it is, okay, we look at the good, like churches like to brag about, well, if church and religion is bad, then why is it that most of your charities, most of your, humanitarian missions and things of that nature they come from church. You know, we don't see too many atheists getting out there trying to help the world, do we? But they sure do like to run down religion, which are the folks that are actually out there, boots on the ground, helping the poor and helping the sick and all of these type of things. And so T-Jump's point was, well, you know, there's a lot of problems with that, number one, because maybe there are atheists that help the poor and you know, provide medicine, for example, like science,
They're
you know,
just not
helping the
busy
world
drawing
and really
attention to
practical.
themselves.
Exactly. But to dispel that whole idea, maybe it would be cool to have an atheist church, so to speak, that provides like low cost housing for people, that does help the community. And then we can have that other part of it too, the social get together, the camaraderie, you know, the entertainment, everything that the churches provide as well. So you have two of those things to match what the religions are doing, and it's all in the name of normalizing atheism, you know.
Well, maybe you need that in the US, but here, if you associate a charity with a religion, you're not going to make any money. In fact, a couple of weeks ago, we had what we call a telethon, an evening devoted to raising funds for a good cause. It was called Comic Relief because it starred a lot of the comedians who gave their skills free. And you know what? Without a mention of any religion at all, they raised £42 million that night.
Wow, that's a lot of calories.
That's heavy.
Yeah.
Dredd, do you have any final words?
Yeah, great conversation. I just wanted to mention that you can find my stuff on my YouTube channel at Mindpyrate, MINDPYRATE. I live stream this live at 7 a.m. now. Thankfully, we're going to be switching to this time permanently. I'm also reading, I just read a book, or did an audio book called Plato and a Platypus Walk into a Bar. And it's by Daniel Martin Klein. And it's understanding philosophy through jokes. It's a really, really funny read, but there's a lot to learn from it because
I want the citation. I want to read
awesome.
this book.
Yeah. And maybe after next week, if I'm on, I'll share one of the jokes after the invocation.
Fantastic. I want to throw out a quick final point. It is a double-edged sword with how information is distributed on the internet, where there's echo chambers. The thing is, we tend to look for the information we want to find on the internet. And so how the internet is currently set up, it will send you the things that you want to see and continue to show you ads for those things. So it's up to you, as we talked about, to recheck your biases, recheck where you're getting your information from, ask yourself why, and question everything. Because otherwise you'll be asking to walk right into the bubble echo chamber for yourself. It's not the internet's fault. It's still on you to get properly educated effectively. Larry, I think we're getting close to the end. What's up?
I want to say something.
We've got 1 minute. We'll do it after the show. What's up, Larry?
Well, my content can be found at digitalfreethought.com. Be sure to click on the blog button for our radio show archives, atheist songs, and many articles on the subject of atheism. My YouTube channel can be found by searching for Doubter5 or Larry Rhodes. And you can find my book, Atheism, What's It All About, on Amazon. If you have any questions for the show, you can send them to askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org or let'schatse@gmail.com. If you're having trouble leaving religious beliefs behind, you can find help at recoveringfromreligion.org. Thank you for joining us on the Digital Freethought Radio Hour. Remember, you can find this show on Apple iTunes, Pocket Casts, Amazon, and podcasts everywhere. Remember, everybody is going to somebody else's hell. The time to worry about it is when they prove that heavens and hells and souls are real. Until then, don't sweat it. Enjoy your life, and we'll see you next week. Say bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Ramen.
Cool. That's a show. Thank you guys for bearing with me.
Thanks, everybody.
Well, I have a possible topic I wanted to ask you guys about for another show.
Okay.
One of the commandments, and I forget which one it is, down around the beginning says, "You shall have no God other than me."
Just one. I think that's number one.
Yeah.
That's number one. That shall have. Well, that implies to me that there are other gods,
Hmm.
and maybe the one we've got, we should take him back to Gods Are Us and get a refund and get ourselves another one who's more responsible.
Yeah.
John,
Less like
when's your-
Donald Trump.
Well, that's why
when's your,
that's why
panel discussion?
pastafarians are a little ahead of that curve, and we have the God back guarantee. So
So, I mean, can this be a topic for a show?
Yeah, we can handle it as a question. Sure.
just so you know, I just realized I won't be here next week. I'm actually doing. I got a really good gig doing security for the TED Talks in Vancouver.
Oh, cool!
So,
I did one
yeah,
of those.
So it's an interesting lineup. Bill Gates is going to be there. Jeff Bezos. A whole bunch of thought leaders and stuff.
This sounds good.
And my detail, I'm going to be in a suit and a tie. I'm going to look the part. I'm going to be in a suit and tie with a little earpiece and the whole thing. And I'm going to be in the theater, so I'm going to be able to listen to all this stuff for free and
try not to fall asleep.
And try not to fall asleep.
Exceptionally boring people. John Richard,
spy camera. You can have a spy camera in there.
Yeah. There we go.
John Richard, did you want to plug your panel for later today?
Yeah. I've got a new show. I'm starting in about 2.5 hours, which is called Global Atheist News Review. And I've got some eminent guests appearing, including Dredd and some people from this country as well. And the idea is that we take a look at the news show that I did yesterday and give our views on it. It's views on the news.
Views on the news. And and you said it's 2 hours from now. So at 12 o'clock, it's 2 hours from now. Is that fair? You'll give us a StreamYard link and then we'll.
I will. Yeah, I'll put. If you're coming along, I'll put a StreamYard link into your Messenger or WhatsApp or whatever you use as communication.
Sounds good. And then Dredd, I definitely want that link to the book that you're reading. Would you mind posting that
absolutely.
in the Messenger group?
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys coming in.
Yeah, thanks everybody. You make the show.
All right.
Cheers.
Yeah,
Thank
see you
you.
next time.